Hello, welcome to this MySID guide for school governors. In this very brief video, I'll just describe to you some of the key features of the MySID software. MySID standing for My School Improvement Dashboard. It's a piece of software that EAS have developed to support schools in improving the quality of school self-evaluation, school development planning, and the spending of their grant monies, which we then have to approve in terms of the pupil deprivation grant. The system also then helps leaders to evaluate the quality of the impact of the activities that are being funded, and also provides them with the ability to see the whole report as a large overview, which can then be shared with yourselves as the governing body of the school and also with staff. So let's have a quick look through each tab just to give you a very brief understanding of what the system does. So in section 1, the first section that you would arrive on here, the first tab is the categorisation. You'll be aware that every year the school categorisation is published in light of the data provided from Welsh Government. And also then there is a second part of the categorisation, which is the capacity to improve, which is supported by the judgment of a challenge advisor. That can be displayed in the system. This isn't currently active, but will be within the next few months. And what we can see here is an overview which gives a graphical representation of that data. Then using the tabs along the top here, the head teacher can see the relative indicators, the scores that have been achieved relative to those indicators. The various data measures then are shown in terms of the where the school sits relative to the banding. You'll be familiar with the green, red, yellow and amber banding here. So schools won't just see that they are in the amber or green or red. They will see where they are relative to those bands and how schools are performing. Schools are performing around Wales. Additionally, the benchmarking calculations here, they'll see where they're sitting relative to the indicators across the full spread of the indicators that are used to generate the categorisation. In the step 2 and 3 information here, this is where the challenge advisor then will provide a commentary on the school's capacity to self-improve, making a judgment about where the school is currently along that journey. Unlike the data, which is only published annually, the challenge advisor can then go in on a termly basis and review the categorisation. In the case of the capacity to improve, we can indicate progress and we can then publish that report, which will then sit in an archive at the top of the screen up here. So the categorisation information will all be stored in MySID in the long term. In terms of self-evaluation, you'll be aware that schools are required to self-evaluate on a variety of measures. We've set the system up here based on the ESTIN self-evaluation manual, which can be downloaded from the page, to show all of the information, all of the key questions that the school should be self-evaluating against. Key question 1 on standards, key question 2 on provision, and key question 3 on leadership. There's also then the ability for schools to, leaders and challenge advisors, to have a discussion about comments on the report, to share ideas to improve the quality of this self-evaluation. So a template has been provided. However, if schools have a successful existing framework that they use, these reports can also be uploaded to the system should the school leader wish to. It's a very simple process for the head teacher of going in, editing the information. They can copy and paste from their existing self-evaluation, add evidence, add attachments to show how they've arrived at those findings and to provide evidence to support the self-evaluation. And when they've completed it, it can be saved. Obviously, because this is available online, it can be accessed anywhere. The head teacher doesn't have to be in school, and it's an updated document that can continue to be updated as time moves on. And again, there's the ability to date stamp and record new versions of the self-evaluation. The school development plan section allows the school leaders to develop the statutory 3-year plan. So it's a requirement now within the Welsh Government guidance to ensure that all schools have a 3-year school development plan. And within the system, we have designed it such that priorities that are considered to be high will feed into the first year, medium into the 2016-17 in this case, and the low priority years would appear in the third tab here for 2017-18. So very simple again, the head teacher can go in, they can edit this, they can add in their priorities, actions and success criteria, and they can then set the priority level and the current status of that action. And in the first instance, many of the status of the various actions are going to be red because they are things that are going to be tackled within the coming year, especially those that are highlighted for the 2015-16 period. Of course, these actions should be drawn from the school self-evaluation, which has been completed in the previous section. So once the priorities have been set, schools can then look at the budgets that have been allocated. So within the system we have the Education Improvement Grant and the Pupil Deprivation Grant, which we've already plugged into the system for schools. Schools are then at their liberty to add additional funding sources, which can then be allocated to school improvement activities as they move through the system. As a funding source is added, the total that is then allocated within the system changes. And quite easily as well, if a category needs to be deleted, it's all editable, so you can go and you can delete them. Obviously, you won't be able to delete the locked budgets here because they have already been set by ourselves with Welsh Government. And as we move into the school activity plan section, what schools will then do is they will look at the specific activities that they're going to be working on to support the priorities that they've identified in the school development plan section. So here you can see the individual activities. So an example here to increase provision for ICT and develop and enrich learning experiences. A specific activity has been placed, and then within here we've got the monitoring, who's going to monitor it and how they're going to monitor the success of that particular activity, and also the ability to set which budget, if there was a cost associated, which there isn't actually for this one, but if there was a cost associated, which budget that's going to come from. Once those activities have then been set, the head teacher can go through into the financial monitoring section, and the various budgets that are being allocated to the school improvement activities can be monitored. So the top section here provides an overview of the high-level budgets, the planned, unplanned spends, the actual and committed, and what's remaining. And then underneath is where schools will begin to work on the invoicing of various activities to capture the information that's required for the auditing process, and to ensure that the correct expenditures have been allocated for those activities. So that's the financial monitoring. What we're also encouraging schools to do as well is for every one of the activities that's been set out in the activity plan section, there should be an interim evaluation, perhaps carried out termly, where schools can look at the activities within their school development plan and assess the extent to which things have been improved. So, for example, the status can move from red to amber or amber to green, and then the person who's responsible for activity, so it could be it's the deputy head or the foundation phase lead or the key stage 2 lead, or maybe a head of department in a secondary school, can go in and comment on how the activities that have been developed through the plan are having an impact. And finally, in the review impact and priorities section, the school can look at the high-level priorities it set out in the original plan. The success criteria that they set is then pulled through, and the school can then go in and complete a more thorough evaluation of the key priorities that were set in that year's plan, which would then conclude the cycle of self-evaluation, development planning, and then reviewing the impact of the activities that were undertaken to try to move the school forward. What's also provided here is a school development plan overview report button. Once this has been pressed, the school can then click on the document, download it, and it pulls through a lovely summary document which contains the 3-year plan and also then an overview of the budget and the various different activities within the school development plan. At the end of this document there is also a section where the governing body can provide a formal agreement of that development plan and sign it. So that gives you an indication of the MySID system, how it's going to be, how it's currently being used, and how we envisage it being used as we move through this and future academic years. Thank you very much for listening.